Alright, welcome. I'm gonna do a quick training in this video. I'm gonna go over my normal training curriculum in it. It shouldn't take too long. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and make this full screen. How to run a code club. There's two things I kind of want to go over in our time together. I want to talk about why this coding thing is important. I don't want to spend too much time on that because you probably already know why. You wouldn't be doing a code club if you weren't somewhat interested in the kind of impact that this stuff can do. Secondly, I want to get into the nitty-gritty of how do I actually facilitate a code club, particularly if I don't know how to code. That's where most people are when they start this whole code club adventure. So I'm going to try to get you trained up and give you everything you need to be able to walk into your very first code club and actually know what to do. So first, on the why question, we always start with why, and I like this quote from Drew Houston. He's the founder and CEO of Dropbox. He says, coding is the closest thing we have to a superpower. So why do we do Code Club? Why do we teach kids computer programming? Because we want to give them superpowers. There's two main areas of impact that we fit all of this into. There's the jobs category and the life skills category. On the jobs front, the statistics are very impressive. They say that there's 500,000 unfilled computer programming jobs today, and that number is going to double to 1 million by the year 2020. So in just the next couple years, there's going to be 1 million unfilled computer programming jobs in this country. What that says is why do we do this? Why do we run computer programming clubs in libraries all around the country? Because we want to prepare the next generation to get the jobs of the future. These are the new economy types of jobs. These are the jobs that are going to be around for a long time. These are good paying jobs. I think the median national salary is somewhere around $65,000 a year for an entry-level computer programming job. That's not a bad entry-level pay rate, right? That's better than a lot of our like max pay. So, I'd be happy with that. So yeah, it's a great field to get kids interested in so they can get these jobs in the future. But not everybody's going to go into a career direction with Code Club, and that's fine. There's this whole other life skills category that just by being a part of the Code Club, kids are going to get a variety of life skills, just like they would if they were a part of a youth sports team or a youth music program. The life skills are different than music or sports. They're centered around things like STEM and STEAM, kind of experience and interest. They have to do with digital literacy. Code Club's going to teach people how to think rationally, how to become problem solvers. Code Club's going to teach kids how to learn new subjects. So much of Code Club is like figure it out for yourself kind of learning, that they're going to be forced to learn how to teach themselves new things. Code Club's going to give them an opportunity to develop a maker mentality. They're going to take pride in things that they make. They're going to use their creativity to make their own projects. And then lastly, Code Club is an amazing opportunity to get in a room with other kids roughly their own age and develop relationships. Right? They get to look each other in the eye and collaborate, and in an increasingly digital world, wow, is that important. So what that means on this why question is that Code Club, maybe traditionally we have this stereotype of who is a good candidate for Code Club, and it's this kid in the picture here. He's nerdy, he's got glasses, he's got numbers flying around his head. Or maybe it's this, we think that, you have to be born a certain way and only a select few are good candidates for computer programming, just like this baby here. Like it's something special you've got to be born with. But what we want to say and challenge is that no, coding is going to be a valuable experience for girls just as much as it is for boys. It's going to be a valuable experience for small towns and rural communities just like suburban or urban communities. But coding is going to be a great experience for anyone. It's going to either prepare you for a future in computer programming jobs, or it's going to give you those important life skills that everybody needs. So that's the why. Just a couple minutes on that, nothing crazy. So all that said, kind of a last thought on the why. Um, this is something we can really get our hearts behind. This is something we, as a company, as Prenda, this is something that we believe in. We're really a cause-based company more than anything. So we are on a mission to get a code club in every library that meets every week, and we're so grateful that you are a part of that. And we just hope that maybe you can get your heart behind this as well. Now let's jump into the nitty-gritty. How do we facilitate a code club? Especially if you don't know how to code. Like I said, that's where most facilitators start. They don't know how to code, and my goal is that you can run a successful code club without ever writing a line of code. Don't believe me? Well, stick around and let's see if I can do it. So you're probably thinking right now, okay, yeah, I get it. I get why it's important. I can get my heart behind it, but how am I supposed to run a code club if I don't know how to code? Well, we are leaning on what may be a new model of learning, and this is a hybrid model of learning, where we're going to introduce technology. We're going to have an adult there, and we're going to have the kids learning in this kind of hybrid model. You see, we've got the traditional classroom and the online experience that we're going to mash together and create a whole new hybrid learning model. We're going to take the best from the traditional classroom and the best from online learning, and that's those top 3 bullet points on both sides. And then we're going to correct for a lot of the problems from both of those models, which are the red bullet points on both sides. And on the other side, we're going to have this really cool learning model. So I'm not going to get into each of those because I'm actually going to summarize them here in this next slide. So these are the characteristics, the positive characteristics from those other 2 models. There's consistent meetings. Code Club is consistent. We say that it should meet once a week for 1 to 2 hours, and what early childhood psychologists will tell us is that rhythms and patterns are extremely helpful for kids. That when they have a consistent rhythm or a consistent pattern, they're going to thrive. Additionally, Code Club is in person, so we're going to have this in-person experience very similar to the traditional classroom. Kids are in a classroom environment where there are peers, other kids roughly their own age, and there's an adult there too. We think the right ratio of kids to adult is somewhere around 15 kids to an adult. If you have over 15 kids in your code club, I recommend getting another adult. But then there's this technology element, the software element, or if you move over to that first bullet point on the right, 1 to 2 kids per computer. So just like in an online classroom or an online experience, everybody has their own login, their own credentials, and that enables them to go at their own pace and to choose what they work on. Both of those things are really important in our learning model, and they're really important to the kids actually learning this stuff. We use online resources, it's an informal learning environment, and of course there's an emphasis on projects. So overall, this is the equation of this model. There are kids plus an adult plus software or technology. And the kids, those are the kids in your community. The adult, that's you, and the technology, that's Prenda's software. So the big question in this whole thing is, what is your role as the adult? Let's kind of break down those 3 elements, and let's start with the adult, because that's what you probably care about the most. So first of all, you're not a teacher. We don't expect you to be a subject matter expert. We don't expect you to know how to code or to ever even write a line of code. So you don't give instructions, you don't lecture, you don't write stuff on the board. That's not your role. Instead, you have 3 very important roles that we need you to fill. You are a cheerleader, a mentor, and a facilitator. So cheerleader, you're the one that creates this very positive, this uplifting environment for the kids to learn in. You can do that by doing high fives or fist bumps or looking over their shoulder and saying, "Holy smokes, that's amazing. How did you make that game? That's so cool." that kind of thing, kind of like a grandma. Additionally, you're a mentor. Mentors are the ones that ask really good questions. They're the ones that when we want to give up, when we're frustrated and we just want to throw in the towel, they say, stick in there. I believe in you. Don't give up yet. Keep working. Keep fighting. You can do this. I believe in you. That kind of thing. And then lastly, you are a facilitator. Facilitators are the ones that point us in the right direction. When we can't figure something out or when we're stuck, they say things like, did you try Googling it? Did you ask your friend? Did you read the instructions? You point them in the right direction. So those are the 3 roles that we need you to fill. Now, my question to you is, how much coding expertise is required to be an amazing cheerleader, mentor, and facilitator? The answer is 0, none, no coding expertise. You can be an amazing cheerleader, mentor, and facilitator without ever writing a line of code. This is the research that we're pulling from, the grandma effect. If you've seen this TED Talk, amazing. If not, feel free to watch it on your own. But what we find is that if there is an amazing cheerleader, mentor, and facilitator in the room, it doubles the amount that the kids are able to learn. It doubles their competency at the end of the day. So we want that double effect to happen. So that's why we ask you to be a cheerleader, mentor, and facilitator. So that's the adult. Let's talk about technology now. Technology becomes a subject matter expert. Technology is the one that leads the kids through a learning journey. It takes them from not knowing anything about coding whatsoever to being able to make websites and video games and apps at the end of the day. It does that through both logical curriculum, step-by-step instructions, trial and error kinds of things, and projects where you can actually apply those concepts towards building your own coding project. So our software has both of those elements. The curriculum we call workouts, and the projects we call missions. You'll become more familiar with that as you get in the software and noodle around a little bit. So that's the software's part, and then the kids part is the last part of that equation. Remember the kids, adult, and technology. So the kids are the last thing that we'll talk about. The kids' experience in all of this is that they log in, they'll create an account on their first code club, they log in, and then they get to go at their own pace. Because it's all software, it's web-based, there's nobody who says you have to go this fast. They get to go at whatever pace they feel comfortable going at. It's self-guided, meaning they get to choose what to work on. In our software, we've got 3 tracks that they can choose from: web, games, and scripting. On any given day, they can choose whatever path they want to choose. And if they want to switch midway, they're allowed to do that as well. And then finally, it's social. We all learn best in the context of community. So Code Club is a social experience. And the more that you, as the facilitator, can help foster those collaborative or social environments, the better. So always focus on creating the most social environment as possible. I'd encourage you to watch this movie. The link is down here at the bottom, and I will send you these slides along with this video, but you can see just how social it is in the video. You can see that kids are up out of their chair, they're pointing at each other's screens, they're working on stuff together, they're huddled around a screen, they're pointing, all that's happening in Code Club, and that is what we're going for. If you want to learn more about this learning model, we lean heavily on this concept called connected learning. You can learn more at this website here. So the interesting thing is that what we realized is people learn how to code better in this informal learning environment. We've got the formal learning, and that's where there's an expert in the room who can lecture and who can answer questions. But that actually doesn't work very well for coding. Coding's too hands-on and it's too trial and error. So you've really got to embrace this informal learning thing, and that's what we're doing in the code clubs, and that's what you're going to do in your library. So the question that comes up most often is, okay, that's great. I can cheerlead, I can mentor, and I can facilitate. But what am I going to do when they get stuck? How am I going to answer a coding question that I don't know the answer to? Well, we've got your back. We've got you covered on this one. we're going to lean on this concept called the growth mindset. And if you don't know what that is, you can watch this short 3-minute video, but I'll just summarize it by saying a growth mindset is to engage the struggle. So how are we going to help kids get unstuck when they're stuck? We're going to encourage them to engage in that struggle and ultimately get themselves unstuck. You are not there to get them unstuck. You're there to lead them through a process where they will get themselves unstuck. So we've developed a 3-step process that is your method of leading them through that struggle or leading them through that obstacle. So you'll just take them through this process, 1, 2, 3, and by the end of it, they'll be unstuck. They'll have overcome the obstacle on their own, and they will be better for it. So here are the 3 steps. So first of all, never answer questions. Even if you happen to know the answer, don't tell it to them. It's better for them to wrestle with it than to get the easy answer, right? So step number 1, I want you to imagine you're in code club and somebody's got a question or a problem, so they raise their hand and you come over and you say, hey, how can I help? And they say, oh, I can't figure out this JavaScript thing. And you say, okay, well, what have you tried so far? This is where it's just them and their own like grit. They've got to wrestle with it on their own before you'll even help them, before you'll even really give them the time of day. The reason why we start here is because oftentimes kids will raise their hand as soon as they're stuck and they'll expect the adult to come over and tell them the answer. Well, that doesn't happen in Code Club. In Code Club, they need to wrestle with it and engage in that struggle on their own before you move on to anything else. So I would just say something like, if they haven't tried anything so far, if they can't say, oh, I tried this and I tried this, I clicked here and it didn't work, and if they've said that, go ahead and move on to step number 2. But if they raise their hand as soon as they got stuck, then I want you to just say something like, all right, well, work on it on your own. I think you can get this, but if you still can't figure out in a couple minutes, let me know, and I will come over and help you. So let's imagine that they did. They worked on it on their own for a little bit, and then they raised their hand again, and you came over. That's when you can move on to step number 2. Step number 2 is who else have you asked? Who else have you asked is your chance to build some peer collaboration and peer support right into the fabric of Code Club. Most of the time they haven't worked with anybody else yet, so you can actually facilitate a connection. I'll just make an announcement to the whole room and say, hey, who knows how to do this particular thing? A bunch of kids will raise their hand and I'll pair them off to go work together for a couple minutes. This is amazing, right? This is the real world. They've got their peers that they can team up with to solve a problem. So let's imagine they teamed up with their peer and they didn't solve it, which will very rarely happen. Like 99% of the time, they have solved their problem at the end of step number 2. But let's just, for the sake of the process, let's just move on and say they couldn't solve it. So you need to move on to step number 3 in the process. Step number 3 is let's figure this out together. This is your chance to model steps number 1 and steps number 2. You get to model what it's like to wrestle and struggle and engage with it. You get to model what it's like to not get frustrated when you can't figure out the answer. You get to model teaming up and working with somebody else and asking somebody for help and taking direction and taking instruction and collaborating. You get to model what that's like. And if you can do that, you're going to get them unstuck. What they're learning in step number 1 is that they are their own best resource. They are the best place to go when they encounter problems. They can actually solve most problems by themselves. What they're learning in step number 2, kind of an underlying lesson, is that their peers are their second best resource. Their peers are the second best place to go when they have a problem. And then what step number 3 teaches them, kind of the underlying lesson here, is that you, as the adult, are a terrible resource. You are a bad place to go when they get stuck. They're much better off working on it on their own or teaming up with a peer. And if they can learn that, then that is a huge win. So just to recap, number 1, what have you tried so far? Number 2, who else have you asked? And number 3, let's figure this out together. cool. I love that stuff. So as we're kind of getting to the end here, here is a day in the life. I put this slide in here just so you can begin to visualize what the Code Club looks like and feels like. So number one, you're going to show up a couple minutes early, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. You're going to make sure the computers are ready to go. You can have them preloaded to app.prenda.co if you want to. And you just kind of get the environment ready. If you want to put on some light background music, go for it. I do that all the time. It helps the kids feel a little more loose and lets them know that they can make noise. Number two, the kids start to show up and Code Club begins. They log in and they start coding. They're going to go at their own pace. They're going to choose what they work on. Some may choose to work through the missions, the projects. Others may choose to work through the workouts, which are the curriculum. And you don't tell them what to do. Meanwhile, you take on those roles of cheerleader, mentor, and facilitator. You're there when the kids raise their hand and they need a problem solved. You're there when they need signed off. You type in the secret code, and you're there to help build community. That's what you focus on during Code Club. Never coding, you're never solving coding, you're never telling them the answer to coding questions. You're cheerleading, mentoring, and facilitating. You're signing off tasks, you're creating community, and you're leading them through that process to solve problems. And then lastly, you wrap up. It comes to the end of Code Club. You can make a mental note of where kids are, what they've been working on if you want to. You announce when you're meeting next, and then you start thinking about a showcase event, like a show and tell event. Maybe once a quarter, I'd recommend hosting just a simple show and tell where the kids get to plug in their computers to the TV or the projector, and they get to show off a project that they've made. That's the equivalent to like a band concert or a soccer tournament. It's that thing that all the kids have to work towards, where they can display the ways that they've grown and everything that they've learned. So anyway, that's a day in the life of a Code Club. Just some final logistics now. That's the how-to stuff. Now just some final logistics. There's a support website. There's articles, videos, downloadables, support.prenda.co. There's an online community on Facebook where you can ask questions and give input. The link is there. I think I include it in an email after this as well. Next steps. I'll send you that email. It's got a link to these training slides. It's got this PDF called The Comprehensive Guide to Your First Code Club. Download that, read it. It's bullet points. It summarizes all of this, and it makes everything so easy. And then a marketing poster is in that email as well. And then there's instructions for setting up your administrator account for the first time. So follow those instructions. That's how you reset passwords, and that also gets you ready to get your weekly attendance emails. And then number two, select your first meeting, select your launch, right? What date, what time, and let me know, because I need to put it in the software to make sure that we're going to track your attendance for that. And then number three, you get the word out, right? If you want to go let kids at local schools know, you can print off a bunch of posters or make something to bring over to them. Whatever you do to get the word out, you guys probably know better than I do how to do that. So get the word out and get kids there. And that is what I've got for you. Here are the links from stuff throughout the training here. They're also in the slides as you go. But I'm here for you. Here's my info. Reach out to me anytime. I'm here to make sure that Code Club is a success. So just to say a big thank you. Thanks for running Code Club. I'm thrilled that you're going to be doing this at your library, and I'm here whenever you need it. All right. Thanks. Have a great day.